My name is Leeroy. I guess the first thing everyone needs to know about me is I trained in the arts, not what they're asking me to do right now, which is speak in front of a terrifyingly large audience. Okay, so I guess that has a lot to do with why I chose a career making avatars for myself, and creating environments where I feel helps me relate to my immediate environment. So yeah, let's go to the first image. Yeah, that's me carrying one of my pieces. I basically grew up in General Santos City, which is located south of the Philippines, and most of the art that I had access to were these paintings that they would peddle in the streets, or hung in our local malls. And to me, these works were like, things that I wanted to do. This was my idea of what art was. And I didn't realize that, my conception of art making and, the presentation of art would shift drastically in the next couple of years when I finally entered an art school. So, at the same time that I, did those kind of works which depicted like farmlands and farmers toiling in the fields, I would also do pages and pages of monsters in different configurations. And my parents would endearingly call me a weirdo. So I was the Addams family in the family. I was the entire family for them. So I guess this is, part of being in the province where they had very limited access to art. I had very limited access to art. And so when I finally applied to, take the test to the Philippine High School for the Arts, I was set on, studying in that school. I did not apply for any other school except that school. And, I had my fingers crossed the entire time. As you can see, this is what that school looks like for most of the day. We would be walking in, the middle of an empty road, trying to get to our classrooms, which were mostly at the other ends of our dormitories. And so yeah, this was what we were exposed to most of the time. There were a lot of natural and nature references. And it didn't really help us, to be grounded in reality. It kind of like helped us become more eccentric, actually. So yeah, that's me being hardworking with my fellow batchmates. And that's me with some of our art projects for art classes. Like we had to do masks. That was one of our first, projects for like sculpting. So when I trained under my mentors in Philippine High School for the Arts, I was pretty much like culture shocked the entire time, because like I had like no idea that art could be a lot more than just painting and drawing, and so I had professors who did installation art, sculpture, and did a lot of very innovative things. So I wanted to try everything myself. I felt very competitive. I felt very impatient. I wanted to do everything that art could be. So for my thesis project in Makiling, I decided to come up with an approximation of a mythological sacred space. I don't know what that is right now, but this is the work that I did back then when I was in my graduating year, and it's supposed to be derived from baleta trees and like the crucified form and all that. So there was a drastic shift in how I would create my works even in high school. So yes, my professors also disillusioned me from this whole this tyranny of art, and told me that pre-colonially Filipinos didn't really do painting or like sculpting in the traditional Western sense. You know, we were carvers, weavers, potters, and our art was, you know, integrated in our daily rituals. So that kind of stuck to me. And, you know, that got me to like do work that would, you know, confront my audience and, you know, give them an entirely different experience of what art could be. So I decided to create spaces when I graduated from high school. So this was a paper sculpture that I did in a local museum, and it kind of tries to, you know, give form to that idea of caves as sacred spaces, using paper as a material. And during that time, I was already very much impatient. I applied and sent my portfolio to galleries. I guess I was in my second year back then, but I could not wait to practice professionally. So I pretty much had the same answers from all of them. No? Come back when you're famous. So that started my love-hate relationship for the art scene. I decided that I didn't need the gallery. I decided to try street art. So my close friend and I went to the streets and decided to paint on like empty walls. You know, if galleries won't show our art, we will create the conditions to show our art. So these were done in UP when I was like a second-year student. No one was doing like large-scale paintings in the public space of UP, but you know, we decided to like just act casually and pretend that we were doing like a sanctioned project from Fine Arts. I learned my lesson when I started doing the first street piece that I did at night, and like guards would just swarm around me as if I was doing something legal, which I was. But you know, I tried to convince them that, you know, it was my thesis project, but that worked for a bit. And we decided to try our luck in the streets of EDSA. And, you know, being the rebels that we were, we put on like these uniforms which resembled the uniforms of MMDA during that time. Without putting the logo, of course, because, you know, we thought that would get us into trouble, even more. So we just put student volunteer. So after that, you know, I decided to do other modes of, you know, presenting art. For this piece, this is a piece I did in my my college years still. So like I did like paintings of drips and splashes. Why not create like sculptures out of them? So when we were asked to join a painting competition, I did like instead of doing a painting, I decided to depict painting as sculpture. You know, a magnified depiction of dripping paint. So that paved the way for like other applications for the form. I got so fascinated with the dripping form that I applied it to like my sculpture installations. And the way I work, I constantly try to apply it to different contexts. Because basically my way of working was thinking of how I can actually show my work to a larger audience, or like create connections and build like my personal mythology with my immediate community. So I was lucky enough to be invited to do like a sculpture installation for the facade of a friend's store. And you know, he just gave me like a really small budget, and I said, yes, I'll take it. Because there were too many offers to do public art back then. So I would insist on doing something that was not commercially viable at that time, I felt. And you know, just create a niche for myself. So the next step would be, this idea of public space is not a static thing, no? It's alive. So there was a time when I thought, you know, the body is a public space. So why not use the body and create works, you know, versions of my work that people could actually wear or perform in. So this is a wearable version of the dripping motif, no? I made like a couple of versions of that piece. I collaborated with photographers and shot pieces that I had in my studio that wouldn't sell. So, you know, at least I could like reuse and use them. So, and then from depicting dripping paint, I made a suit out of silicone using actual drippings. And so took accessories and the latex. And then again, I would like apply everything to, the body, installations. The next step would always be, what if I applied the idea architecturally? So on a larger scale. So this was in the interior of CCP. So that became my routine, no? Like, I'd start out with an idea, and then think about how to actually pump up the scale. I would collaborate with performance artist friends who would, oblige me to perform my installation pieces. So if you're familiar with this structure, it's actually the waiting shed in front of the UP academic, structure. I got permission from Abueva to actually wrap the thing in spandex and insert giant beanbags inside it to disrupt the symmetry that, the UP architectural planners had for it. So the blob forms gave birth to like blob creatures. So I felt that if I created the spaces, I needed to create the creatures that inhabited it. So that's me looking all happy when one of my spaceships was being lifted up in front of the Fukuoka Asian Art Museum. So my sci-fi dreams have been fulfilled somehow. So I guess everyone felt, they could relate to it because it's the land of giant monsters and spaceships. So I would do pieces that would be inspired by the material as well. Like the cable ties, which I would do accessories, and which would not be enough. I would create like full body suits and, inject color into the mix. And after that, why not create environments out of them? And inject new materials into the mix. So for this series, which I call the Balete series, which resemble like sinewy roots growing around structures, no? This was in Ateneo, which, they allowed me to actually build the installation around the existing facade of the Ateneo Art Gallery, using pipes which were available here in the Philippines. The orange color kind of worked well with the idea because balete trees are sacred spaces in Southeast Asian mythology. And, this color reminded me of the robes of monks. And they kind of reinforced the whole divine reference. So I basically just wanted to infest the entire city by spreading all these creatures around. I've kind of found a way to around the whole gallery system by, working extra hard. And I find myself waking up to these plants growing in my studio. I started experimenting with, friends. And my collaborators, the Sipatlawin Ensemble, would, indulge me and collaborate with me. And, I would collaborate with them during one of their, performances in public spaces. So yeah, so eventually I realized that, I had to use the human body as the public platform, and which was, filled with so much potential. So these are assorted toys that I've transformed into wearable pieces, and which kind of fused with the balete installation and made it like grow flowers and fruits. again, the Sipat in Lawin Ensemble would collaborate with me and perform in one of the installations wearing the costumes that we've made. They blend in quite nicely with the installation. So eventually I realized that I had to use my own body because it didn't seem fair. So I poured like expanding foam around my body in different iconic poses. And then I do it to them again. So at least they couldn't complain that, you know, I haven't tried it. So I'd create the objects as well that these creatures would interact with. And eventually I was given a chance to actually construct a spaceship in the middle of nowhere for the creatures to actually ride in, maybe, or have a picnic. And I realized that the other space that I had to try was, you know, the virtual space, because that seemed to be how a lot of people would view my works now. And so we've come up with this series called Aliens in Manila, which will be a collection of fictional characters presented in the Facebook format and the Instagram format. Just to expand the mythology that, you know, I've started. So do check it out. I mean, it's you can check it out online and follow the lives of these creatures. And I guess, you know, the work will keep evolving. Please make sure to, you know, check it out and follow and see what we come up with next. So, thank you.